Good evening. I think people are starting to filter in on this lovely spring evening. Where I live in Addison County, it's a lovely rainy spring evening. I don't know if it's as rainy where you are, but sometimes that's a wonderful way to be able to start an evening of great conversation. I'm Jane Lindholm. I am your moderator for this evening, and I work for Vermont Public Radio as a host and executive producer of our national podcast for kids called But Why? And until recently, I was also the host of Vermont Edition and got to be in conversation with Vermonters every single day, which has been an absolute joy for almost 14 years. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us tonight for the Vermont Women's Fund and Vermont Community Foundation's virtual event called This Way Up, featuring women entrepreneurs from Southern Vermont. I really am glad that all of us could be here and have this conversation, but I am lamenting the fact that we aren't in person and can't see one another. One of the most wonderful parts of being involved in a Women's Fund event is this incredible energy and sort of pull that is generated by a room full of women and other people dedicated to seeing women and girls thrive in Vermont and beyond. And the way it feels to look out at so many warm faces from a podium smiling back at me is really special. So I am right now picturing all of you, even though I can't see you, so you better be smiling. We have a really special evening planned for you this evening. We're going to hear from 4 great panelists who can share a little bit about how they came to succeed, their ups and downs in being entrepreneurs. And we're going to talk about where they see challenges and opportunities for women in Vermont and the role the rest of us can play in pushing back the barriers to success for other women to find their niche. I am not an entrepreneur, and I will admit that I've always been incredibly intimidated and impressed by the tenacity, the risk-taking, the intelligence, the accounting skills that all these entrepreneurs that we're going to talk to tonight have. So I can't wait to hear from them. And lest you think that as somebody watching this evening, you just get to sit back and relax, that is not the case. We will be asking for just a little bit of participation from you, but don't worry, you don't actually have to speak out loud or have anybody see you. You don't even have to turn on your camera, but we have some survey questions that we'll be asking you to sort of get you in the mood of what we're talking about tonight. And the other thing is we would love to have your questions for our guests as we have our panel discussion. I'm going to be sprinkling them throughout the conversation, so you should be able to see on your Zoom meeting a little Q&A button. And if you put your question in there, it will be visible, I think, either to all of us, or you may be able to specialize who you want to be able to see it, just the panelists. But go ahead and sprinkle your questions, your thoughts, your reactions right in that Q&A section. Before we hear from Nancy Koziol, Jewelz Johnson, Lisa Lorimer, and Julie Leinberger, I want to invite Women's Fund Executive Director Meg Smith to offer a few introductory remarks. Hi, Meg. Nice to see you.
Hi, Jane. So great to see you too. And I agree, I miss the energy of our live events, but I feel the energy already coming right through this screen. Welcome, everybody. As Jane said, I'm Meg Smith. I'm the director of the Vermont Women's Fund and a co-host of this event along with the Vermont Community Foundation. For those of you who are new to our work, the Vermont Women's Fund is the state's largest, and we were the first philanthropic resource dedicated to the advancement of women and girls. It was started 27 years ago by a group of fabulous, far-sighted women who wanted to change the system and to address the needs of women and girls in Vermont. They also wanted to model and to inspire women to be philanthropists themselves and educate women to embrace their own financial power. Today, we have role models like Melinda Gates and Mackenzie Scott, who are changing the world with their philanthropy. And we believe, well, we know that we have changed Vermont and Vermont's landscape by elevating gender equity and empowering women and girls to believe in themselves and their abilities to be economically self-sufficient. There's a lot more to say about the Women's Fund, but I will ask you all to look at the website to maybe acquaint yourself with our grant making, which we do every year, and the partnerships and collaborations that we've forged over the last few years. The Vermont Community Foundation is also a host of this event, and my colleague Elizabeth Marks is fully responsible for this fantastic panel and the wonderful gift boxes that I hope many of you have already received for the price of your ticket. The wares in those boxes are wonderful. I ate every single thing already, but it's a wonderful demonstration and illustration of women-owned or women-led businesses right in Southern Vermont. So Elizabeth, thank you. And since we are coming hopefully on the other side of a pandemic, it was the Vermont Community Foundation that took immediate action last March to stand up the COVID-19 Response Fund to help nonprofits and the Vermonters that they serve cope with the myriad of unexpected needs that our different communities encountered. And thanks to so many generous people who love Vermont, nearly $10 million was raised, and almost $8.5 million or maybe more by this time has already gone out the door. It was a phenomenal effort that's been going on for the past year. And then 6 months later, the Community Foundation set out 5 recovery initiatives to address the key challenges that were magnified by the pandemic. And one of those is to seed rural entrepreneurship, which is at the heart of our conversation tonight. Thank you, Vermont Community Foundation, for your incredible work and for co-hosting this event with us. And by the way, the Women's Fund is a component fund of the Vermont Community Foundation, so we work hand in hand all year round. A few more thank yous go to some of our local sponsors who jumped in when we proposed this and were looking for sponsorship. They are Muskoma Bank, The Alchemist, the Bank of Bennington, Cabot Cheese, and Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. Thanks to all of them and their support for the Women's Fund. And then some of our annual sponsors, our major annual sponsors are Gravel and Shea, Vermont Gas, and Dealer.com. There are several more sponsors who you saw in the emails that we sent out, but I don't want to keep reading. I want to get going with our program. But all of our sponsors really forge a partnership with the Women's Fund. They are standing up and believing in what we believe with gender equity and equity for all. And we're very, very grateful for their support. Okay, I think time is marching on, and I want to give the stage back to Jane and get us going. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. And again, thanks to everybody for supporting the organizations that you just saw on your screen tonight. As we dive into our main event, this wonderful panel discussion that I'm so excited to be a part of with 4 entrepreneurs in Southern Vermont, I want to put our conversation in a little bit of context where things stand right now for women in the US workforce. We know that 1/4 of US women say their financial situation now is worse off than it was a year ago, compared with 18% of men, according to a recent CBS poll. Even as the US economy and the labor market continue to show signs of rebounding, we know that women are still not returning to the workforce at the same rate as men. And that's particularly true for parents of young children. A Wall Street Journal article that came out yesterday went through new census data that shows as of March of this year, nearly 1.5 million fewer moms of school-aged children are actively working than before the pandemic. And women of color who are mothers have a lower rate of return than white mothers. But we're also at an inflection point nationally and in Vermont, as unprecedented amounts of federal dollars are being directed to recovery and to fund programs that had previously always fought for their share of the state budget. Things like broadband infrastructure, a huge issue in rural Vermont, funding for affordable and available childcare that is high quality. And personally, many of us are also at a tipping point, for better or for worse. For some of you watching tonight, I want to acknowledge that it's possibly worse, not just because of financial concerns, as I mentioned a minute ago, but also because of exhaustion, burnout, grief, and so many other feelings. For others, it's better, or worse and better, maybe for many of us. You've had a chance to reevaluate what's important and maybe how to get it. You've established new routines, new jobs, maybe new opportunities. So let's dive into this conversation with the women gathered here tonight to talk about their own tipping points, challenges, opportunities, and maybe some of us will find inspiration in their achievements to create some new opportunities of our own, or to support the women in our communities who are working to step up and grab that brass ring. And as I mentioned earlier, I would love to incorporate your comments and questions into this conversation. So feel free to start posting them now in the Q&A box, which should be down on the bottom of your screen if you're using a computer. Just to give you a sense of the roadmap for this conversation, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk individually with each of our panelists, and then our plan is to move into a more wide-ranging conversation. I'm so thrilled to be speaking with the 4 women joining us tonight for this panel. Nancy Koziol, founder and owner of Couch and Cork, a wine tasting business in Bennington. Hello, Nancy. Nice to see you tonight. Julie Lineberger. Hi, Nancy. Julie is founder and president of Wheelpad, a company based in Wilmington that manufactures accessible housing units that attach to homes or stand alone for people who need extra mobility. Julie, what a pleasure to see you, to see your face tonight.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Lisa Lorimer is the founder of MamaSezz Foods, which offers healthy meal subscription and non-subscription services and is based in Brattleboro. I had the pleasure of talking with Lisa earlier in the pandemic. It's nice to be able to chat with you again.
Nice to see you again. It's great to be here.
And Jewelz Johnson, founder, owner, and chef of Jamaican Jewelz Food Truck and Catering in Rockingham and Bellows Falls. Welcome, Jewelz. Nice to have you with us. So Jewelz, unmute yourself because I'm going to start with you as we go through a little bit of people's stories and what they've been through. And I want to start with you because, you know, as we all know, food businesses during the pandemic, you know, at first it looked like for so many food businesses, the pandemic was just a death knell, a death sentence. But some have really found ways to thrive and others are on hiatus. Some are on the brinks of collapse or have already folded or just have found a totally new business model. So I'd love to know a little bit about where you fall and what's happening with your business.
Well, I can say that I fall in all that category that you just listed because when we ended our summer, we had a wonderful summer. We were on Route 30 and we had one of the most amazing summer. We went maybe a foot down on Route 30, but it's in the winter. And so unfortunately, visibility and people knowing that we were there wasn't working for us. So that was, you know, our winter going into the new year. And then COVID came along. It's like 2 weeks prior before things were picking up because all the snow was melted away and everybody was, is that real? You know, people turn around and then here comes COVID where everybody had to just like rush home, resume home. We were hoping and holding hopes that we would be able to stay there. But, you know, everybody was taking this thing very seriously. And we had to come home. We had to pack up shop and take home the beast. And I came home and I was sad. I was like, this is not happening. This is, you know, really. And then I was in, you know, my house and I was like, walking. I'm like, what? Wait a minute. Don't I have a license to operate from home? What are you doing? You know? and my spirit rise again, you know, and I went out. I'm like, I'm going to safe serve meal from my cart because my carts are home. And I'm like, but I could, it's the same thing. And so I start doing that. I start doing safe curbside pickup and stuff like that. So I start motivating myself to do those things and do it in the safe manner, you know, because people need food. No matter what, somebody needs something up there. So that's how I got going. And then other little things start turning around, like the Our Eat program, which is a godsend for me. I mean, that program is just phenomenal. And it kept me cooking. It kept me being creative. And I also, in that mix, because I didn't know if the Our Eat program was going to come back. And so I started a subscription business to keep myself going. And people accepted it and supported it like 100%. So I became.
So this is like a CSA, Jewelz? You had like a CSA food program?
It was. So as I said, I became more creative, more innovative, just to keep myself and my dreams going, you know? So, and I'm still doing that currently. So that's my story between the COVID, winter, and I'm here.
You know, so many people have found that working from home, I mean, I have not been mostly working from home, so I have not baked a single loaf of bread, but so many people have. But most people haven't had to cook for a living at home, and working from home is a challenge. So how has that been for you?
It has been a huge challenge because now your home is foodie more than you want to. Being that everybody is home, working from home, you have to be very quiet. You can't be quiet, so everybody's getting in everybody's ear. So it is fun thinking of you're in your own space. You're not in anybody's bubble. But yes, you are in other bubbles because others are working from home as well. So it is challenging. It's fun, it's challenging. But at the end of the day, is what you have to do to survive.
Can you whet our appetite a little bit, which is a cruel thing to do after 5 in the afternoon, but what are a few of your favorite menu items?
So I have the jerk chicken, oxtail, curry goat, curry chicken, and one of the biggest things that is hitting this place, it's called maple baked chicken. So I do a maple bake or a maple jerk. So I infuse Vermont with Jamaican. And so those are my top 5 items, or 6, that everybody seems to love.
I wish everybody who was watching tonight that was about to be delivered to us. That would be wonderful.
It's gonna happen. We have to have faith.
It's interesting to hear you talk about that fusion of Jamaican and Vermont cuisine and blending them right into, an individual menu item. Can you talk about how you came to be a Jamaican chef in Vermont in the first place and open this food truck business?
Of course, I came to Vermont through work. I came to work on the ski resort. I came here in 2007. And when I came, Vermont was experiencing in a long time, they had a snowstorm and it was overwhelming. And so when I came here in the pitch of dark. There wasn't much light, there wasn't much anything. And when I stepped out of the bus, I'm a really short woman. When I stepped out of the bus, it was in pure silence, pitch darkness, silent, snow was up to my knee. I said, because I like quietness. So when I stepped out of the bus, I stepped into my realm. It was cold for 2 days. I was blue, shivering, all of that. When I went to work, the rush and the sound of people just got me excited because I was in as I said, my realm. I love food. I love people. So I came to Vermont through work and I fell in love with Vermont. It reminded me of Jamaica and the country. Because I'm a country gal. And so the quietness and the fruits and the atmosphere and people just remind me of back home. And I like it. It's just family oriented, quiet. So, yeah.
I want to ask you about financing, but let's hold off on that and
Yes.
do that later in the conversation, because that's something that all of you have had to deal with in various ways. And I'm always so curious how people find financing, particularly if they don't have sort of an independent pot of money to draw from right at the beginning. So I'm going to ask you about that first, but let's stop for just a moment and go to one of our survey questions, because as we hear Jewelz talk and as we listen to the other panelists, I think some of you listening may be interested to know some of the facts that from this survey that have been put up by the Women's Fund. So here's the first question. If Vermont women chose business ownership at the same rate as men, how many new businesses would that create? So your options, you should be able to see them on the screen now. More than 500 businesses, more than 1,000 businesses, or more than 10,500. You can vote on that. We'll see, how many of you have a sense. I think the panelists and I can't vote, but all of you watching tonight can vote. What do you think? If women chose business ownership at the same rate as men, how many new businesses would that create?
At least 1,000 new jobs.
You think 1,000, Jewelz?
Yes.
I'm going to give it about 10 more seconds for people. So, it's kind of amazing to me to think, but the answer is more than 10,500 jobs. New businesses would be created. If the percent of women-owned businesses that are employers match that of male-owned businesses, and those firms had the same average receipts, it would add $3.8 billion to Vermont's economy alone.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. All right, more of these questions to come as we go through the night, but let's turn now to Nancy Koziol. And Nancy, since we've gotten our Jamaican jerk chicken and our maple jerk and wonderful goat in front of us in our minds, we might want to try a special wine that could go with it. So when you were listening to what Jewelz was saying, do you have a wine in mind that would pair well with Jewelz's 5 special dishes?
I do. I can't wait to try all of Jewelz' food, but I think the wine that really was in my brain immediately is a white wine called Viognier, which is a really beautiful, silky white wine. It's made a little bit sweet, and I think that would really match those beautiful flavors that you find in like goat, like that nice kind of gamey, earthy flavor. And also Viognier goes beautifully with spice. Red wine would be trickier, but I was thinking maybe a Zinfandel. I always like Zinfandel with barbecue, and I'm thinking kind of a nice saucy, meaty oxtail with a Zinfandel might work. I'll bring some bottles up, Jewelz.
This is starting to be a really great dinner party already. I'm thrilled with all of the menu options we have so far. And one thing we should talk about right at the beginning, Nancy, that when I said, what do you want to talk about? You said, I want to make sure people know I don't sell wine. So yes. What is your business? What are you doing?
So I'm selling wine education. So often I get calls at about 10:30 at night. People just randomly find me on Google and call me and they say, are you open? Are you a liquor store? I'm like, no, we're not a liquor store. So my focus is on bringing the fun and excitement of wine education to people because it is kind of wine education isn't much fun when you go about it in the classic way. It is very demanding and grueling. It can be very elitist. And so my goal is to make it really fun and exciting for people so that they can enjoy what they need to know to pick a wine and feel confident doing it, or to pair a wine without being able to, rattle off however many Grand Crus there are in Burgundy, things that just don't help you really enjoy wine.
You put it right on the front of your website. You use the word that everybody's afraid of in wine, snob. You say this isn't, if you don't want to be a wine snob, but you do want to know more about wine, that's what you're trying to provide people. Yes. So how have you managed to pivot? Because in some ways, I think there must be new and wonderful opportunities for a business like yours in wine education that have come along with the pandemic, but also presumably also challenges.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was really worried because our model was in person, in home. So the idea is I come to your house, you have some snacks, we hang out, and you learn about wine. And then all of a sudden I couldn't be face-to-face with people. So I very quickly pivoted to doing virtual tastings. I wrote about them for HuffPost, and I kind of threw my hat in the ring and said, I can do this. And so I moved to doing it completely virtually, and that actually took off hugely because people want a way to connect, but not just, when you have your 12 best friends from college on a Zoom, everyone's just talking over each other. But with this, it gives it a little bit of structure. It's something really fun. Everybody learns something, and we have thrived during the pandemic. We also somehow got on the radar of corporations. So that's pretty much our bread and butter now, is doing team building activities, incentives. We had a law firm that hired us because they won a big case, and this was their way to celebrate. So we actually we pivoted quickly, and it has really paid. It's been great.
And just to be clear, so you don't sell wine, you're not a wine store, but you do, you take care of everything. So for a situation like a virtual tasting, you will take care of the shipping of the wine to the participants in the fee, right?
Yeah, so we order all the wine on everyone's behalf using usually wine.com, and we send it right to their door so that nobody has to worry about, finding the right wine and worrying about what vintage to get. We make it really easy.
So, in fact, nobody has to be even near Vermont to be able to participate. So are you doing better now than you were pre-pandemic?
I am, yes.
That's great.
So we are now at the point where We are sustaining payroll for 2, all of our purchasing, everything else through revenue that we're taking in. So it's been very exciting to reach that point where I wasn't paying for everything with my Amex and then paying myself back. So yeah, we have done really well. I'm excited to be back with live events here in Southern Vermont starting in June, but definitely having a national audience, and we just branched into Canada, has helped.
You know, in thinking about the wine industry in Vermont and around the country and around the world, there's been a lot of upheaval lately. And as with the rest of our culture, people really grappling with issues of gender, issues with race, and in Vermont, issues about sexual harassment and how people are treated and how, you know, people who work in this industry should be responding. And I know that that's something that you think about a lot because you are in the business of thinking about wine, not making it, but thinking about all of the factors that go into what to recommend, what to send people. And some of that comes with ethical consideration. So how are you navigating that?
So we've just become aware of the situation with Zaffa. And at this point, we're just gathering information and trying to learn as much as we can before we make any decisions. I think it's important to get all of the facts, kind of understand. But as a general practice—
And before you go on, let's just briefly mention what that is for people who don't know. So Zaffa Wines, which is a Vermont company run by Krista Scruggs, has been, she's been accused of sexual harassment and mistreatment of people. And some big players in the wine industry, including Deirdre Heekin from La Garagista, have been involved in some of those accusations. And so it's really roiling the wine industry here and potentially around the country as well.
It is, yeah, it's a big deal. And there are some places online where you can read stories of people who've made accusations. And it's, you know, there's new information coming out every day. And so far, the response from Zaffa has been pretty quiet. So as a practice, we try to encourage underrepresented winemakers. So we focus a lot on women winemakers and winemakers of color, and really giving people a voice because the wine industry is very much white male dominated. Just lost a headphone. So we try to focus on really bringing awareness to the fact that there are a lot of people who make wine that don't necessarily all look the same. And there's huge barriers to entry because wine is a really expensive thing to get into. Wine education is very expensive, certifications, you have to travel a lot, you have to drink a lot, you have to invest a lot of money to taste. And so we try to do our best to kind of show off some of the other sides of wine by, you know, looking at winemakers who are not kind of cut from the mold.
Yeah, so part of the way you think about your business is to think about ethical considerations, to think about equity, to think about social justice. I mean, is that part of a wine tasting business, social justice?
It is. It's a huge part of it. From labor, you know, are we treating people properly? Are we, you know, what are we doing to help vineyard workers who traditionally are treated very poorly? Seasonal work, it's often not insured. There's a group of people in Walla Walla, Washington, who are really focusing on getting affordable healthcare for seasonal vineyard workers. So I do a lot of promoting their wines. And also environmental issues are huge. Looking at places that are being really smart about, you know, using screw caps instead of corks, for example, is a really easy change that wineries can make to be more sustainable and to, you know, leave less of a footprint. We are an industry that, generally speaking, we're pretty good about not leaving a huge carbon footprint. But we're doing more and more to make sure we are affected by climate change more than many other industries. So I think that has raised awareness and has gotten people thinking about boxed wine and screw cap wine and other ways to kind of limit the footprint because glass is heavy.
We can bring that more into our conversation as well as we continue and think about issues of equity and diversity. But let's continue our food tour here and chat for a minute with Lisa Lorimer. Lisa is the founder of MamaSezz Food. And so, you know, you are also in the food business here, although you may have been really well positioned even before the pandemic for the pandemic times that we've been experiencing. And I'd love, Lisa, for you to tell us a little bit about how your company sprang up from a personal need that you couldn't find anyone to fill for you. Can you describe how you got started with this vegan delivery service?
Yeah, sure. It started when my mother-in-law was released to hospice care with congestive heart failure, and she had less than 10% heart function. And so we brought her home for what we thought was the last 3 months of her life, and did a bunch of research. And my partner found Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn from the Cleveland Clinic, and he said to feed her a whole food plant-based diet. And so that's what we did. We just started chopping up these little whole food plant-based diet, thinking that we would just make the last few months of her life as comfortable as we could. And then we all started eating that way because, you know, we have 4 generations of people living here. And so we all started eating this way. And over time, she kept getting better. She was 80 years old when she came to live with us. And then my blood pressure went down and my partner's macular degeneration went away. We just started all getting healthier and healthier. And she got up out of bed, which was unexpected. And then she started walking around the apartment. And then a few months later, we look out the window and she's walking up the driveway. And we thought, wow, like, cool. So that was when she was 80. She's 90 now. And I just watched her barrel up out of the driveway, driving her car. She takes care of our kids a couple hours a day, and she's just like full of energy. And at Dartmouth, they're like, what are you doing? And so we took her in for an appointment, and she was in there for over an hour. We thought something bad had happened. And she came out and she's like, come here. And she's like showing them our website. She said, I'm vegan. You know, she didn't quite get how to say vegan. And so what happened for us is that we started eating this way. And, you know, we're not saying to eat 100% this way. We say, you know, I'm a Vermonter. I grew up hunting and fishing. We're saying put our chili on your hot dog and eat more fruits and veggies. And so what we realized, though, is that you spend half your life chopping and half your paycheck at the produce section of the grocery store. We're like, man, we got to get somebody to do this for us. And so we reached out to a bunch of different food delivery type companies to just ship us the food so we didn't have to deal with this. And we couldn't find anyone that was doing exactly what we needed to have done. And my background is in food. I spent the first 25 years of my life in running another food company. And I'm like, okay, we just got to start doing this. And so we started. It's kind of funny, Jewelz, to hear your story, because both this and the wholesale bakery both started by working in our kitchen, right? So we started making this food. We started to give it out to friends, and we realized, like, oh man, we got to get out of this kitchen. It's going to kill us. And so we actually launched MamaSezz to become a customer, basically.
And Lisa, you know, one piece of this story too that has always amazed me is you were a new mom, right? I mean, you're the sandwich generation. You had a very new baby who needed a lot of care, and you were preemie hospice care. Yeah. So my partner actually had this preemie. Our daughter was born 3 months early. So we were at Dartmouth, and I had 3 generations in 3 different ICUs all at the same time. You know, we had one in cardiac because her mom came to visit us during this time and collapsed. The baby was in the NICU, and Meg was in the birthing center, and so all 3 of them were in ICUs. It was when we got home that we started to eat this way, because they told us at Dartmouth that there was nothing else that they could do for my mother-in-law. And so we came home, and there was just like it was chaos here. But the nice thing about Millie is that she loves babies, and so we would just prop her up with a boppy, and life was good. So it all worked. But yeah, talk about a need for somebody else to do a little bit of the chopping or take a little bit of the thought out of it. You know, Lisa, when you go from something that is driven by a personal need or a personal desire, and then transform it into a business that can sustain you and perhaps other people as well, how do you work to separate the personal from the business, both emotionally and financially? As soon as you figure that out, let me know. That'd be great. I think that it's a myth, right? That we're able to find balance. I think we just got to try and figure out, like, what are our priorities, and they change over time. Like, you know, right now during COVID, I've got everyone's starting to get vaccinated, so it's a little bit different. But I had, you know, a 90-year-old living here with a daughter that had preemie issues, which means their lungs are challenged. So, and we adopted a son in June. And so all of us are here, and we're doing homeschooling, and we're running this, growing, because during COVID, of course, everyone started ordering online. So MamaSezz is going like this.
And we're sort of all homebound at the same time. And so I don't think there's ever any such thing as balance, honestly. I just think that we try and figure out what our priorities are at that point. And just know that some clanging things are going to happen, and the house is not going to be as clean as you want it to be. And that's okay. It's okay.
Well, before you started this business, you founded the Vermont Bread Company. And I think you were, what, 21 when you started?
Yes,
This is
yes.
amazing. And I know that so many people are thinking about this week, that the Coffee Cup Bakery, which owns Vermont Bread Company, closed up shop very suddenly. I know that there had been
Yes.
financial issues for a while, but certainly this came as a surprise to many of the employees and to some people in the community around Vermont. And, it's not your company anymore, but it still must be such a part of your identity and such a part of your history and such a part of the community that I'm just wondering if you wanted a space to reflect on that for a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to write something about it as well. It's heartbreaking. I just want to say that it's so new. I mean, the reporter that was reporting it knows me, so give me a quick heads up. And it turns out I had more heads up than my old employees did, which is heartbreaking. Some of the folks that work there have been there for 30 years, people I grew up with, because I'm from the West River Valley. And it's just, I feel so sad about what has happened. And then I also know that we did an amazing thing for almost 40 years, right? So there was really cool things that happened in that life cycle. And hopefully, there's some talk about, is there a way to bring it back? I hope that there is. There's some people that put their heart and soul into that company that just are amazing folks. And we were early on paying livable wages and, really focused on, being a solid team. And how do we do that? How do we treat each other with respect? And so I really think that I'm still raw from it. It's only been a couple of days. I feel really sad, but I'm mostly concerned about my employees who are just amazing people, and they did not deserve to be treated this way. And I feel really sad about that.
I appreciate that. We're talking about food and business, and part of that is also employees, whether your business is food or something else, and how do you treat them, and how do you think about your job as a founder, as a CEO, as a business owner, and how to treat the people who are working with and for you. And so I think that's something that we can also bring into this conversation, which is getting really big already. I'm loving talking to all four of you. We could talk to each of you for about an hour and a half.
Well, let me just say though that for us, it was always, we were never, like, we got a call early on from Ben & Jerry's when they were starting Vermont Businesses for Social Responsibility, and we're like, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Like, we just treat people like we want to be treated. Like, we all need to have families and go on vacation and save for our kids' college. Like, of course, this is what we do. What are you talking about? So it took us, like, we were just like Vermonters, like here we are, we know each other, we grew up together, we're working on this together. Like, what do you mean? Like, isn't that what everybody does?
Yeah. I'm going to pause from the food because I'm getting too hungry. So it's a good time to bring in Julie Lineberger, and then we can talk all together and maybe answer a few more of the survey questions as well. So Julie Leinberger is the founder and president of WheelPad. I'd love for you to describe it, because I have spent a lot of time looking at the units on your website, and they're beautiful, but I want to hear it from your voice.
Thank you. Well, it started because my husband and I have an architectural practice that we've been running for 35, almost 40 years. And in 2010, our godson was involved in just a very difficult, traumatic injury in a pool where 4 days before his 26th birthday, he became quadriplegic. So we didn't know what to do. We just showed up at the hospital with his parents. I've known him since he was 5 years old. It was tough. So eventually he went through his rehab. He went to start a new job in Portland, Oregon, and could not find a place where a caregiver could help him in the shower. So he was forced to live isolated in a hotel room, an accessible hotel room, for 9 months before he found an accessible apartment. Once there, fast forward, he bought a house, and he called us, his godparents, to say, hey, can you help me make this universally accessible? We said, of course we can. Now, my husband and partner is one of those creatives. He just invents things constantly. I'm talking like 20 items a year. And most of all, I'm like, oh yeah, it's very nice. Let's go back to our business. But this one I said, we have to make this into a business. There needs to be more accessible housing in the United States, throughout the world too. But right now, only 7% of families that need accessible housing have it. And over the next 20 years, the housing studies show we're going to go from 48 million people 65 and above to 79 million, which creates even more the need for accessible housing. So as we were making his new house, universally accessible, my husband says, hey, Riley, what if there had been an accessible bedroom and bathroom unit that we could have attached to your mom's house or your brother's house? And then when you were in that transition, you wouldn't have had to live alone. And when he was there, it was a new job, figuring out how to live using a wheelchair, all this stuff. He had no bandwidth nor any room for anyone to come cook for him in a hotel room, but no bandwidth to go out. So he was very, very isolated. So we ended up developing these units. It was really interesting because I used to work in the nonprofit world. And then it took me, I'd say about 15 years to go from nonprofit to for-profit in architecture. I think it was sustainable architecture in terms of that we did everything very green, but it was barely sustainable financially. So I finally got all that worked out. And then I thought, okay, Joseph's got this idea for a wheel pad. I got to make it happen. But there's a whole brand new learning curve in doing a manufacturing business. So it's been quite a story. We've had some amazing opportunities. We now have a few modules. And yes, the what we call an ad pad, because it is in addition to an existing home. We had one Vietnam veteran, because it's all financeable through the Vermont Affairs, the Veterans Affairs Specially Adapted Housing Grant. And we had one Vermont vet who had ALS, or a veteran, and he's like, I'm losing my legs, but I want to sleep next to my wife. And our ad pad can fit a double bed or a single hospital bed. So we created what's called the XL unit, so that he could sleep next to his wife. So that one is not on a chassis. We've also developed other models that take 2 or more of the ad pads and put them under one roof, like we did for a school in New Hampshire who wanted faculty housing very, very quickly. And with this need for more and more accessibility, which brings more inclusion, they said, okay, we're on this tight budget, so can you make this for 3 people using 3 of your ad pads under one roof? And we've done that. And we are just about to roll out, as far as we can see, the nation's very first accessible tiny house, that the whole thing will be in there. So that's kind of the short version of our origin story.
I'm glad that you mentioned that for veterans, this is something that can be financed through the Veterans Affairs funding, because, as you mentioned, so many people need accessible housing. And one of the benefits of WheelPad is that it can be something that happens very quickly. So it's not something that you have to go through and redesign your house, which could take months right after somebody has had an accident or has had a change in life circumstances, at a time when you don't really have the bandwidth, as you said, to deal with that kind of thing. But also people who are facing a crisis or a surprise situation, who also have fewer resources, have fewer options. If you don't have money, you don't have the option to retrofit your house. And I wonder how you work that into your business model to think about equity and inclusion, which has really filtered through so many of these conversations already tonight, to make sure that people who don't necessarily have all the options have the option of accessible housing.
Well, what's very interesting with the ad pad, you can put someone in a nursing home, and if they're assisted living, it could be up to $6,000 a month with extra care. Or if you put an ad pad onto your house, there's a connector that goes from the ad pad to the house. So someone can roll in to help someone with homework or roll in for dinner, totally be included in family life. And throughout the other doors where we build a ramp. So if that person does need care, the caregiver doesn't have to go through the whole house, doesn't have to disrupt. And the person has their own, a little bit more dignity and privacy for that. So we are working with VSECU. Full disclosure, I'm on their board of directors, but also with other credit unions in the state of Vermont to get funding for this. But back to what I was saying about nursing homes, you go to a nursing home and you pay out all that money, it's gone. If you put an ad pad on your house, you are continually gaining the equity in your house, because then when you sell your house, you either have this extra room or we have a guaranteed buyback program if someone no longer needs it. But you're not throwing away money. You've got your loved one included in life, which all the studies show how much better that is for mental health as well as physical health. So we really work with clients and customers as much as possible to help them with their financing needs.
This is so fascinating already. I want to open this conversation up so that we can engage together in this, and so that the four of you can chat with each other, because you are all entrepreneurs. I'm just, the interested person saying, whoa, how did you make that happen? And again, to our audience, we would love to incorporate your questions into this as well. So you can put them right in the Q&A. We're getting people commenting already. Trina says, wow, Julie, what an amazing business idea that is changing lives. Incredible. Other people also commenting and sharing thoughts. One that came in, we need Jewelz in Northern Vermont. Somebody wrote, incredible story, Lisa. I'm properly amazed. And somebody else just acknowledging, saying, thanks for saying we can feel both better and worse, as this past year has thrown so many curveballs for our health, our families, our home, and our work. I'm going to give those of you who are watching a chance to type in your questions and ask a second of our survey questions tonight. So here's the second question we have for you. 20,786 women-owned businesses don't have any employees. If just 1 in 4 of them hired just one worker, how many new jobs would that create? So you can see those numbers on your screen. I'll read them in case you're, I don't know, changing a diaper or making dinner and not looking at your screen. Would it make 1,260 jobs, 3,478 jobs, or 5,200 jobs? If just 1 in 4 women-owned businesses hired just one worker.
I would say 3,000 something jobs.
Jewelz, I love it that you're answering these. That makes me so happy. Any of the others of you have a thought on? I can see the answers, so I would be cheating if I answered.
I think it's more like the 5,000. I think, and I think when we talk about the feminization of entrepreneurship, I think getting that first employee can be very hard for us. Because we don't want to, as Lisa was saying, the most important thing that helped her grow her business were her employees, was your team. And we don't want to hire someone to then have to fire them when business doesn't go down. So we end up doing all kinds of what I call duck jobs, just rather than hiring someone to work their way up because of that. And I am learning, and it's hard, to take a little bit more risk in these things rather than just wait to be sure.
Nancy, is it true you just hired your first employee?
Just hired my second, actually. Yeah,
That's great.
I hired my first in October, and I just hired my second.
Again.
So here's the answer to that. Yeah, Julie, you were right. 5,200 jobs if just 1 in 4 women-owned businesses hired just one worker. Jewelz, what about for you? You hire some summer staff, high school students. I mean, you made.
I wish that's my intention, and always has been my intention to hire from the school or train. Because what a thing when you find somebody with a passion for the culinary arts. So it's my intention, and when things have settled, I will definitely embark on my intention to employ young people, and also as well, because in the past I have had people who no one will hire because of their past or their situation. And I look at persons as your past or situation does not define you. It's the passion that you still have in you and what you want to do with it. So I would get people who volunteer with me to help me, when I want in my cart. But to say employ anyone, I have not had the luck of employing anyone as full-time. Another thing as well, I don't know if anybody else on the panel is like this. I work, I am a workaholic, so I have put myself in the mode not to be disappointed because I can find somebody. So I've trained myself to mostly do all my things. My family helps at time, but they say, oh, you're a Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen. So, I'm yet to find my full-time employee. So hopefully this summer that will come true.
Jewelz, I hope by being a Gordon Ramsay in the kitchen, you're not yelling and swearing quite as much as he does.
Oh, so in the kitchen, I'm two different Jewelz, not this one sitting here. It's a different Mama Jewelz. Because I like perfection. Nothing is perfect, but I like things a particular way, and I'm very to the point. So I become this different creature when I'm working.
So Jewelz, you may not have full-time employees, but when we think about the economic impact of just a single person starting a business like yours, you have to source your supplies, and presumably some of them at least are coming from local farms and farmers and local suppliers. And so you're already bringing that kind of added economic benefit into the community even before there are any other people getting jobs. And so that's a big part of it too, as we look at entrepreneurship and the knock-on effects of just one person being able to start their own business.
Definitely. I started that when I first started. I got started in the farmers market. And so I knew most of the farmers there. And so I developed a relationship with them over a period of time. So especially now in this COVID time, those are the same farmers that I met back 6-7 years ago. And I said, hey, how you doing? And they are happy to see me because they know I'm coming for their refrigerator, that I'm going to empty their freezers. So it is such an awesome thing, not because I'm not able to provide or get a worker, but I will provide a job for another person on their farm that they need that extra hand. So I feel really good about that.
Lisa, when you scale up to a business the size of yours, how do you think about sourcing ingredients and that kind of same attention to where ingredients are coming from and some of those equity and social justice issues that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think it's just having more of those kind of relationships. And I just want to go back for a minute because I think you touched on something really important, Jewelz, which is, and I wanted to talk more about the startup. Like, how do you actually get started, which is what we're talking about here. You started in your kitchen, said we started, Vermont Company started with a home-sized mixer and a pizza oven. And just like you, we started selling at the farmer's market. So the way that it starts is not this big where you come in and see, 4,000 pounds an hour going. It really is about like, here, let's get started here. Oh, we can mix more than we can bake. Let's get another oven. Oh, we can bake more than we can mix. So let's get a bigger mixer. Oh, now it hurts our hands to cut it out of the bowl. And everything grows one piece at a time. And it's also, the other thing to remember is it's all figure outable. We're all, women in this world, adults who have figured out a whole lot of stuff if you think about your own life. And so everything is figure outable. And I just want to really keep reminding us that it's one step at a time, and you can do it. You can figure it out. And if you need help, there's lots of us out there that can help. And you have way more resources than you think you do.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, how do you get help, and how do you even get financing if you're not well connected, if you don't have a ton of money to start up your business, and you don't have somebody who you think you can go to say, trust me, here's why you should trust me, and here's how I'm going to guarantee I'm going to make this money, when you don't know you're going to be able to be successful in your business. How do you even take that step, both actually financially and confidence-wise, to step up and say, I need some capital investment, and I'm going to go out and get it? I think some of you have had a lot of experience doing that. Julie and Lisa, you've probably done some of that. Nancy, you may have as well. But how do you take that step?
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll say. Proceed.
On the financing. Yeah, well, I was lucky because one, I thought, oh my God, I have to admit, I was an older entrepreneur when we started Wheelpad. I thought, I don't know, we think this is a great idea, but is it a great idea? And the Strolling of the Heifers and BDCC had a business plan competition that I won. And so someone gave me $10,000 towards the creation of our prototype. I thought, whoa, if all these business leaders think that it's a good idea, and they've done all, and then I won a number of other competitions. So that gave me enough money, that and working with Norwich University to actually build the prototype and start going. Once the prototype was in process, then I was able to get a VETA loan, part of what they call WikiDip, the Windham County program. And so that financing was really, really important. Since then, it's very interesting. Someone also asked, what about, how is it by being a female entrepreneur? How is that different? It's interesting because everyone's like, oh, well, are you going to do a capital raising round? You're going to do this capital raising round? And I'm feeling like, no, because people want to give me $250,000 and take 40% of my company. That doesn't sound right to me. So I have slowly just built up my business on my terms. We incorporated as a L3C, which is a low income limited liability company. So if someone does eventually try to take us over, we are a B Corp. We are a L3C. We are, there's a whole, I say that there are a lot of male models to entrepreneurship, and a lot of it is going fast and furious and just getting the money and doing this and going that. And my way is far shorter. If you think of more the masculine model, if you have a ladder, you're going up the ladder, up the ladder, up the ladder to manifest something. There's this wonderful woman named Gladys McGarry who says, when you're wanting to feminist, not manifest, but feminist, that it's more like a spiral. And when you're on the ladder, you can see one or two people above and one or two people below. But when you're in a spiral, you can continually see people, not only where you want to go, but all your teammates who have gotten you there. And I think that there is, with more and more female entrepreneurs, we're creating a new modem of how to run a business that I think is based, like Lisa said, now they call it socially responsible business, but I think it's also a function of more and more women running the business.
Jean would like Lisa to run for office. So that should be on your agenda now, Lisa, for you to start thinking about when you want to run for office.
Let me just say, the reason she says that is she was my advisor at the Girl State when I was in 11th grade.
So she has an
amazing women-owned company, by the way, J.E. Morrissey.
And is this the night? Are you making your big announcement?
No. I'll be on the kitchen table for you, Jeannie, whenever you're ready to run.
Jennifer Haggerty says she's knocked out by the leaders on this panel, yet wants to talk maybe more offline as well about financing and business needs and an availability of follow-up. And it sounds like, connections are a great thing that can come out of this if there are people who want to follow on this discussion after we finish it. You were just talking about this a little bit, Julie, so let's jump into Trina Webster's question about, in what way is it an asset to be a woman entrepreneur, and in what ways are you finding it an added challenge? Nancy, I'd love to bring you back into the conversation. How do you see that gender piece of things?
I think it's really exciting to be a woman entrepreneur at this point. I think that we are making strides at a much more rapid pace as far as being taken seriously. But there are still a lot of people who seem to think that being a woman is a limitation. I can't tell you, how many times I've talked with people and they've said, well, are your kids gonna interrupt the tasting? And I'm like, would you ask that of a man? Like, I think there are certain things that people just make assumptions about. I don't have kids, and I lock my pets away and my husband away when, it's time to work. I do think we have a lot of opportunities as far as, there are grants available just to women. There are opportunities available just to women. Of course, those come out of the fact that for so long we have been marginalized. But I think at the end of the day, if you know what you're doing and if you try and you have people to lean on, gender plays less of a role, except when it comes to things like loans and partners and, sometimes being taken as seriously as you would like to. I saw someone in the question said, do you ever see discrimination? I wouldn't say I've seen discrimination, but I have definitely had people not take me seriously. And luckily I've seen that to their peril. I'll share a story. I'm not going to slam anybody's business, but there was a place.
It's just between us, Nancy.
I know, right? It's just between us and the 80 participants. I'm watching that number. So an educational outfit wanted to use me to do tastings because they had done a few with me personally and they really liked my approach. And they wanted to work with a wine shop. And the wine shop owner refused to supply us wine because he didn't think that I was equipped to present the wines. And it was a very gendered response. And so they ended up just not working with him anymore. I'm not necessarily on the bandwagon of cancel culture, which is why I won't name names, but I think that's really sad that instead of saying, hey, I'd love to help you select the wines, I'd love to share with you some of my favorite wines and some of my favorite pairings, I was immediately discredited because I am a woman in wine, rather than, we had a chance to build a partnership. I would have sent people to his shop, but unfortunately, there is still a stigma that we aren't equipped to be professionals in a setting that is generally male dominated.
I'm obviously in a very different kind of profession, but I have found, and especially found when I was younger, that being a young woman, people often perceived me as somebody who either wasn't going to have done my research or didn't know what I was talking about. But you can use that to your advantage because, especially in journalism, if you're talking to a politician who thinks you don't know what you're talking about, you can lead them down a path that they then can't get out of by then saying, well, actually, that's not how you said it 3 years ago when you were speaking in front of, such and such committee. Jewelz, do you find that there are ways to use your power as a woman to your advantage and your power as a woman of color in Vermont and bringing cuisine from Jamaica, bringing all of these pieces of yourself to your business?
Most definitely. I mean, it is good when you're underestimated, because it's good to surprise people. And as we're relating to her that, because you're a woman, they think that you are not you powerful enough to run this company, or the amount of money they think that you're going to make as a woman is going to shoot you to some existence of beyond the reach of everybody. So definitely, I say so.
Lisa, have you found that?
I was just debating whether or not to tell this story. So early on at Vermont Bread Company, we were 3 partners and we ended up going to 2 and I became the majority owner. It's a long story, but, and my male partner and I had run the business together for a long time. And when he finally exited, our bank called the notes and changed the covenants. Wow. Because I was taking over. And I used that opportunity to change banks. And I went to Vermont National Bank and I was so happy there. And I ended up with that same loan officer for the rest of the time that I worked at that company. And I thought, okay, that happened then. It's different now. And there's a lot of resources now that are supporting women-owned businesses. And I think we are starting to see a generational shift. And then I was raising money for MamaSezz. And one of our lead investors is a Silicon Valley billionaire. And so he was in and we were out raising money and we went to a well-known regional player, I'm not going to say the name, and did our presentation and all the things that we have to say to raise the money. And when I did a follow-up call with this man, he said, I really need to talk to your lead investor. And I said, no, it's not, we'll answer all questions you need. We'll give you all the due diligence you need. We're happy to answer this. And he said to me, no, I need to talk to him so he and I can talk about how we're going to make money in this deal. And I thought, oh no, it hasn't changed. I'm a cash out entrepreneur. I went back and got my MBA. I mean, I did all this stuff, and it's still happening today. I will say that there's a lot of hope for me in the new women funds and the new women entrepreneurs who are investing in other entrepreneurs. I'm part of a group called Serious Nonsense. We're 4 women entrepreneurs and we invest in other entrepreneurs. So I see good change happening, and just to be aware that it's still out there, and don't take it personally. I mean, it's his loss, right? I mean, that's really, as you step into your power as an entrepreneur, you just can't take this stuff personally. And I think that's an important message to put out there, is you know what, just like you said with the wine shop, it's his loss, right? So, I mean, that's the attitude that we have to take as women entrepreneurs.
I want to bring another of our survey questions in here as we're talking about expansion and financing and growth. So between 2007 and 2011, male-owned businesses grew by 6%. How do you think women-owned businesses changed in that same time period? Do you think they went down 5%, held steady, up 6%, or up 15%? Bearing in mind what we've just been talking about here with some of the challenges and some of the obstacles that entrepreneurs who are women face in getting financing, in maintaining financing, and making those kinds of relationships. What's your guess about how much growth or lack thereof women-owned businesses in Vermont have had in that same time period? I'm going to give a few seconds here, and we'll come back to the answer in a minute, because you bring up an interesting question here, Lisa, as we talk about this, and we're not going to talk politics tonight too much, but I want to bring up President Biden's infrastructure plan, because it has been so interesting to think about in the context of what is infrastructure and what is business, and how are we thinking about that post-pandemic. And I'm sure all of you have been paying attention to the fact that in this infrastructure plan that he's proposed, the White House is conceiving of infrastructure somewhat differently than it has been traditionally. So it includes, of course, rebuilding roads and bridges, and aging schools, which isn't a stretch for most Americans to include in infrastructure. But it also includes significant investment in broadband internet, which is a newish way of looking at infrastructure, and in affordable and accessible high quality childcare. It includes funding for building out the care economy to include more funding and options for caregivers who are caring for aging relatives or family members with disabilities. And, as we've sort of touched on here, this care economy at the family level and in terms of professional jobs as well really falls squarely on women. And so, we'll see what happens. This is politics. Who knows what's going to happen? But given what we've just been talking about, with so many women caregivers still not in the workforce and all of these challenges that we're discussing, I'm curious what kind of infrastructure you think needs to be invested in to make sure that women have a path to the job market and to success. Julie, do you have thoughts on that?
I do. I feel really strongly that, and I know Liz Schlegel said, what can people do to help women entrepreneurs? There's a great organization called WBON, Women Business Owners Network. I know through my connections on VBSR, say Melinda Moulton has been an amazing mentor to me. And I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is I went through a number of programs for entrepreneurs, and they are by and large developed by men in a more masculine way of learning things. And it's, so I'd love to see that, yes, we as female entrepreneurs need to be educated on financing. We need to be educated on IT, business plans, all this sort of thing. But I think the people providing those services also need to get themselves a little bit education versus masculine, feminine way of learning styles and that sort of thing. And you'll look, and I don't want to say male, female. I mean, I really want to use the tendencies, masculine, feminine tendencies that people are saying. And I think also they say, you know, you look at the people around the country and say, sometimes even in Vermont, who are the ones getting awards? Who are the ones that are keynote speakers? Who are the one, you know, when someone gets an award, then they're on the committee for the next award of, you know, for the same award next year, and they kind of replicate themselves. Same with keynote speakers. So I think we as women, through things like the Women Business Network and VBSR and different things, really need to branch out and support each other and build each other up.
Before we get to the answer about the growth percentage, any of the others of you, Nancy, Jewelz, Lisa, any of you want to chime in on what you think of as infrastructure and growth for the job market for women?
I'd really like, go ahead, Jewelz.
Okay, so for me, I think it should be more, and I will just add on to what she was just saying. I forgot her name, so sorry. More education. Education is very significant to women, and because you're so invested in getting your business, you don't get that education and brain of thought of how to do business plan, how to get a grant. So I believe for infrastructure, they should do like a incentive for women to get themselves educated in business.
And Nancy?
I'd like to see high schools really focus on teaching girls the basics of running a business. I think that there is such a huge focus on the importance of a 4-year degree. And while I have one, and I recognize the privilege that comes with that, I don't use my degree ever. And I think that it would be really nice to see us preparing women who have these wonderful ideas, who know what other women need, to be able to learn in school, you know, how to start a business, how to write a business plan. I would really love to see a focus in, you know, public education on preparing women to kind of take the world by storm. And, you know, just look at the 4 of us with these really clever different businesses. You know, those ideas are out there. Let's harness them sooner and give girls the confidence to go forward and do it.
I want to bring back that slide about growth percentage. So again, between 2007 and 2011, male-owned businesses grew by 6%. I find this remarkable. Women-owned businesses grew 15% in that same time period. So, you know, sometimes I think when we have these conversations that are gender-based or based on other sort of forms of identity, and people think, well, sure, you want me to fund a women-owned business, but I'm not going to make money. It's just charity. And then you look at a stat like that and realize, you know, if you're investing for the bottom line, maybe investing in a woman-owned business is actually going to be better for your bottom line. And so, you know, I thought that was a pretty remarkable statistic there, that women-owned businesses improved up to 15% in that same time period. Just kind of remarkable. I'd love to shout out a few more of the people commenting in the chat. Jennifer Haggerty says, Jewelz, my parents are in Bellows Falls. I saw your pop-up store just as you were winding it down. Seeing and smelling your food. Oh no, it got moved. So hang on. It got moved into the answered live thing just as I was reading it. I'm going to find it because Jewelz, I want you to be able to hear it. Anyway, she said that the magic was in being, oh, here it is. Seeing and smelling your food and craft as you prepare it must be part of the magic. How are you thinking about creating these experiences if it's part of your vision moving forward?
Well, is working on getting a location, because as everyone has known over the years, that we have not found a stationary place. So, you know, they say rolling stone gather no moss. So we are trying to find root and finding a home so I can create that experience and have everybody be a part of it. So I'm seeking.
You're seeking.
Yeah.
Liz Curry with Common Land Solutions LLC says, thank you all so much for this fantastic presentation. As a new self-employed consultant, I found all of your stories so inspiring. You've reinforced my hope to grow and employ others. Thanks for making Vermont such an unusual and special place to live. So thank you for that, Liz. Thank you, Helen, for your nice comment. Helen, enjoying this presentation and enjoying hearing from our speakers. as well. Ingrid Jackson is saying making the decision to hire someone is so hard, and yet it's the stepping stone to going forward exponentially. And that's not necessarily just monetarily, but you can serve more people and stay healthy. And it's so much fun to work with others and help them grow. But I think with women, we have to ask themselves, why do they not hire? Is it control, fear of failing the employee, the financial risk, really, and perfectionism, and our feeling like we can do it all, and the story that we carry? Ingrid says it's scary making that first hire, but you can talk to local SBA and they can help you look at your business to see if it's viable. We talked a little bit about Liz's comment, three things people attending this event can do to support you. And maybe we could expand that, three ways to support women who are thinking about opening businesses or thinking about expanding. Because as we've seen, women-owned businesses in Vermont support other jobs, they support other suppliers, and they support the bottom line of the Vermont economy with really incredible growth. So Lisa, when you look at what people can and should be doing, what are concrete steps that people in Vermont can take to support your businesses, but also other women-owned businesses?
Well, I think just having these types of forums where you can actually get real stories about people's founding story. I mean, if you look at them, it's like, oh, I can do that. I mean, it's kind of like when you see someone who looks like you, right? Then you say, oh, I can do that. Like, I think that's one of the really cool things about having a female vice president. To have my daughter see a female vice president was the most amazing day of my life, because you can see it. And so I think trying to really demystify what it means to start a business, like how do you actually do it, right? So go and find a problem that you have, right? So what's your problem? Can you solve it? Do other people have that problem? Don't ask your friends and family, because they probably don't, they're not your avatar. Go out and do some research. Are people searching for that? Is there a problem that you can solve? And it's really basic stuff. Like you were saying in the beginning that you're not an entrepreneur, you don't know how to do that accounting thing. Well, let me tell you, we can demystify accounting for you, because it's 5th grade math, right? So we can all take a pencil and a calculator and a pad of paper, and we can figure this stuff out. And it's just about asking questions. You see how all the numbers fit together, and it really is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. As you can do that with ratios, it's 5th grade. And so like finding ways that we can sort of demystify that process, I think is really important, so that women can see, oh, I can do that. Oh, she's done it, I can do that. I mean, if you think about like founding stories, we have a great local story here, kind of like the Jewelz story of Tito's Tacos, right? Everybody saw him on Western Avenue selling his tacos out of a cooler. And then he went to a food truck, and now he's got this building in front of Hannaford that he's opening up for him. So it's like he started making tacos at home, sold it in a cooler. Everybody went by in the morning, picked up their breakfast tacos. So Tito is making it very accessible. Like it's basic stuff. We can do this. And there's all kinds of people who will help. You call an entrepreneur, especially a woman entrepreneur, you call me, and man, I'm taking your call. And I'm going to help you figure this out, because it's all figure outable. And I think trying to figure out ways that we can make that easy to see yourself. And I can tell you, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Julie, do you have advice? You've done this for a long time too.
Yes, well, I basically agree with what Lisa said. I think people that have mentored me, that I then and mentoring others, and part of it is just saying, yeah, I believe you can do this. That's what I know. Someone said to me, oh yeah, you can actually make Wheelpad into a business. I'm like, really? So sometimes that's enough of what you need.
When we look at Vermont and how Vermont is to do business, depending on who you're talking to, Vermont has a reputation for being warm and community minded, or cold and isolating and a little bit aloof, or great for small businesses with cozy communities and people who really want to support local businesses, or terrible for business, terrible for taxes. There are Vermonters who are really excited to welcome new businesses and new people. And then you hear also about people experiencing Vermonters as closed off to new people. So I'm curious how you find Vermont as a place to do business for you. Nancy, how do you find Vermont as a place to do business?
I love doing business here. I'm not a Vermonter by birth. I am a Vermonter by choice. And I moved here in 2002. I love being here. I love the people. I just, the nature, everything. But the thing that I think I love most about doing business here is how willing other business owners are to try new things. I collaborate a ton with other businesses, and I love the fact that I don't think anyone has ever immediately said no. You know, there's always this, well, what if we tried this? Well, what if we did that? Well, do you think people would want to do this? And there's this willingness to kind of figure out, you know, like Lisa said, that idea of, is there a problem? Is there a gap? Is there something missing? And can we solve it? Can we fill it? And I love the fact that I think a lot of Vermont business people are willing to kind of take that risk and work in partnership without any sort of fear, without any sort of, you know, well, is this going to be fair? You know, it's just we're a very collaborative people. We like to talk. We like to figure things out. And I think also because we are so community based and we're also proud of where we live and proud of the other businesses, it makes it really easy to collaborate and do some very cool things.
Jewelz, what about for you? How do you find Vermont as a place to do business, as a relatively new business owner in Vermont?
Well, I have been in business like 8 years. So it's a combination of both. People are receptive and they do want to try. So you have different age group because Vermont is a meat and potato state. So if you can convert your ideas, as I said, do a pairing of both. People are willing to, as I said, to try and to get to know people is a joy because they have the misconception, oh, it's spicy, your food is, and you know, by having a conversation, sometimes you end up getting a little catering out of it. Well, if you say so, how about if you do? So I find it a great place to do business and getting new customers. What I find difficult is financing. You know, people won't take that risk and help you. It took me 8 years to find a mentor. 8 years. I never had anybody to mentor me. A lot of people know me because I'm a people person. I put myself out there, you know, I'm this ball of energy. Hey, how you doing? So meeting people, it's not a bad thing, but to finance your business is a hard thing. So as I said, it's on the balance, it's in the scale. It's a wonderful place to do business because people like new things. They are welcoming and warm, and no matter the obstacles, there are always people. It's the greater number in people wanting you to do business and to open and to establish yourself. The number is greater than the hindrance. So it is a good place.
Jewelz, before I let you go, are you looking for more financing? Do you want to put a shout out to anybody here? What are you looking for?
Most definitely. I want, as I said, I'm looking for a place to settle, to take the business out of my home, to have a place that everybody can say, we're going to go to Mama Jewelz this Monday night because everywhere else is closed. So I am looking for some help.
What's your radius? Southern Vermont, or are you're going to go anywhere? I mean, what are we thinking here? Who are we looking for?
So I'm going to be very, very, very honest. Everybody would want Mama Jewelz to come, you know, where they are. I love my community, you know, and I want to grow here. It's a little community, but it's a vibrant and popping. And I want to get into the schools and help people to realize their culinary dreams. So I would like to start at home first. And I would like to start in Bellows Falls and grow and then extend my wings into other communities. But I would like to grow in my community.
Okay, so if you are watching tonight and you've got a restaurant space in Bellows Falls, get in touch with Jewelz Johnson, get in touch with the Women's Fund. They can put the two of you together. Julie, did I see you raising your hand as well? Oh, and Lisa too. Julie first and then Lisa.
No, it was Lisa. I was just
never mind, forget it, Julie.
Supporting me and raising my hand.
Yeah.
So I hate that I'm going to say this, but I have to say this, which is I grew up in Vermont. I'm a graduate of Lineberger, and I grew up in the West River Valley. I love Vermont. It's part of me. My kids are being raised here. I love it. And it's a tough place to do business. I own a building in Brattleboro, and I rent a building in Keene, New Hampshire. In Brattleboro, I just got no all the time. And I had a difficult time with the economic development folks. It was a different, network than I was a part of. I just couldn't, even though I just been a part of a really big business, I couldn't find my way. And it was tough. I just kept getting no. When I went to Keene, I went to the council meeting, and they stood up and they clapped. They said, "We're so happy you're here. Bring all your friends. We're so glad to have you here." And it was just like such a night and day experience for me between New Hampshire and Vermont. Because at Vermont Bread, I never did anything in New Hampshire. I didn't know what it was like. And I politically, don't agree with stuff in New Hampshire, but that sort of welcomeness is so important. It made such a big difference for me. I felt like, oh my God, I love this town. They love me. They want to help me. They, got me a grant, and they got us going, and they were so excited. And I didn't experience that in Vermont. I got all the no's in Vermont.
So what needs to be done then, Lisa, to make it better?
I think that we need to really think about our economic development differently. We have a sort of a staid way of doing it. And I think that we need to figure out, like, this is our future. This kind of, and getting excited about it and supporting entrepreneurs is really how we're gonna get through this reopening, I think. And I'm happy to be a part of that. I'm happy to talk to people. Jewelz, you call me anytime, I'll help you. I love entrepreneurship, and I just think we need some of that kind of energy. We need the Jeannie Morseys out there talking about entrepreneurship,
I'll be definitely calling you and Julie.
Excellent.
Well, this is a start. This is just a start, as I think, I can't remember which of you said it, but this is one conversation among many that can happen, can start to make connections, can start to open people's eyes about the possibilities for themselves or possibilities for investment. Jewelz, we're seeing people in the chat say, 3 open spaces ready for you in Brattleboro, loans that are coming open, loan opportunities. Yeah, so there are options. And one thing that I want to mention for those of you who are watching and listening tonight is that there will be resources coming out of this. And so I think you're going to be sent those, and everybody who registered will be sent a list of resources and other things that came out of this discussion tonight after our conversation. And certainly, if you want to carry on this conversation beyond tonight, there should be better ways to connect and to start having those conversations and to identify needs and opportunities and people who can provide them with each other. So let's carry this conversation forward. But I also want to be mindful and respectful of everyone's time tonight. So we are going to stop this conversation for now. It's not an end to the conversation. It's just an end to this conversation for now. And I really, with deep gratitude, want to thank our panelists tonight. Nancy Koziol, founder and owner of Couch and Cork, a wine tasting business based in Bennington. Julie Leinberger is the founder and president of Wheelpad. Again, it's a company based in Wilmington, manufactures accessible housing units, standalone, and ones that can attach to your house for people who need extra mobility. Lisa Lorimer, the founder of MamaSezz Foods, which offers healthy meal subscription and non-subscription services, and it's based in Brattleboro. And Jewelz Johnson, founder and owner and chef of Jamaican Jewelz Food Truck and Catering in Rockingham and Bellows Falls. Thank you so much, all 4 of you, for participating and really opening our eyes and getting us so excited for entrepreneurship in Southern Vermont tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
that's it for me too, Meg. I'm going to toss it back to you here to end us tonight.
Thank you so much. This has just been a very exciting and invigorating and inspiring conversation. I'm so grateful to all of you for being a part of it, and Jane, for you, as always, creating a conversation and the space that makes everyone want to be there and take part. One thing you said that's so important, that this is just a start. And I want to let everyone know that what started this are 2 things. One is thanks to our partner initiative, Change the Story, which began 6 years ago with data and research. And that involved the Vermont Commission on Women and Vermont Works for Women, along with the Women's Fund. We underwrote it. And that research showed all the statistics on the survey questions tonight was a result of that research. And that research also shows we don't even know how many women-owned businesses there are in the state of Vermont. That data does not exist. Change the Story used census data to extrapolate that. And one of our goals at the Women's Fund, not only is to elevate this issue, but also to find a way to map and identify all the women-owned businesses in the state. And we have a plan to do that. We'll be unveiling a little bit later in the year. But that idea that we don't even know how many businesses there are really motivated us, because coming out of the pandemic, knowing all the things that we know that women went through in this past year with childcare, elder care, essential workers who get paid very poorly, the wage gap, the hardest hit of all, women of color, that we need to come out of this pandemic and elevate women and motivate and get ourselves charged up to charge and the revenues to stop undervaluing our services and charge and make more than 19 cents to the dollar of a male-owned business. There's absolutely no reason that should happen. We have a sector that already exists, all these wonderful women-owned businesses that if they can increase their business, increase their revenues, hire an employee, it's going to have a major impact on our economy. So we're not creating something new. We are filling in and augmenting and elevating where we can go. And we know entrepreneurship is a sector that can grow. So that and women can be the economic drivers of our economy, let alone the recovery. So I feel, of course, you can tell very passionately about this because I'm seeing it now and I'm hearing it from all of you. It's so important. And there is technical assistance available. Not only will we be sending something out to all of you with just a resource list, but there's probably even more than that. And once you start digging around, it is not hard to find. We have lots of financial institutions that are now looking at women and realizing, oh, they're growing our economy, especially when you look at 15% of women, we're growing businesses faster. So all of this is, and before I conclude, I'm sorry, I get all worked up here. I want to thank our gift box vendors by name: Dorset Daughters, JJ Hatgood, General Store and Eatery, Owl Food and Owl Energy Bars, Rosie's Wonders, make the wonderful, beautiful cards, the Small Batch Organics with the granola, and Tavernier Chocolates out of Brattleboro. Thank you so much for making our event really, really pop, because I got so many comments from people when they received the gift box, and I was really blown away too. And again, the Vermont Community Foundation was a big part of making that happen. But please be a part of our work, support what we're doing. You can donate. We have a link in the chat to support the Women's Fund, because we're trying to take this big picture and really elevate and infuse the energy that women need to help us move forward and get out of what has been, horrible pandemic. But Vermont's economy needs to grow, and women are going to be the economic drivers to make that happen. So, so thank you all so much. I'm just so excited about this, and I think everyone who is part of it is as well. So we'll be doing more of these, more conversations, and Jane, thank you again. And all our panelists, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see you all in person. I plan that will happen by this summer, God willing. So thanks, and have a lovely evening, everyone.